Welcome to the season 3 finale, season 3, episode 16 of the Subway Conversation Chat. I'm your host, Jamie Malloy, and I'm here to talk some New York Yankees and New York Mets baseball with my co-host, Joe Dalio. So, without any further delay, here's Joe. Hey, Joe.
There I am. How's it going? I cannot believe we are talking about a season finale already for baseball here, even though there's about a third of the season still left. But we got to get ready for a different sport, right? As we discussed backstage. But yeah, I can't believe it's at this point already. We discussed backstage too. What better way to do the finale than to be outside? I got train whistles blaring. We're going to have all the sound effects, birds chirping. So if it gets a little loud here in a second, forgive me. We'll get it over with and out of the way. But glad to be with you one more time for baseball here anyway, Jamie.
Mm-hmm. So I like to start off this week's show with the Yankees injury report. So let's get it started. The first one, we have left fielder Cody Bellinger with a left hamstring tightness. He injured his left leg running to second base on a double against the Phillies on July 25th. He got his imaging done. It was diagnosed with a grade 2 strain and is still on the 10-day IL, but he'll be out 4 to 6 weeks. His expected return is late August, early September. Next, we have more encouraging news. We have left-handed pitcher Carlos Rodon dealing with left elbow inflammation. He had a bullpen session of around 35 pitches on July 23rd, and Rodon is looking to pitch a live bullpen session this week. His expected return possibly late July or early August, so very, very soon. Now, I'd like to turn it over to Joe for some Mets news. Joe?
All right. I had to get my mic back on here as the train is gone. But, well, trade deadline week. And for weeks and even months, we've been talking about, okay, the Mets are going to be sellers, right? So what are they going to do? So this is fire sale week. And rumors around baseball say it's very possible that the Mets, they're going to be very active. And it's very possible that they could orchestrate at least 6 trades before next week's trade deadline. Now, here's some names people have been talking about for a long time. Freddie Peralta admitted yesterday that he believed it was his last start as a Met. Now, I like the fact that he owned up. Now, he hasn't exactly been at his best with the Mets here. He's had some highlights, and he's done okay. Not what the Mets expected from him, though. But he actually owned up to the fact that he said, I know I let the Mets down. So, again, I like that. Not the fact that he let them down, but at least he owned up to it. Now, rumor, this was yesterday, he didn't pitch. He actually pitched against the Dodgers. But rumors are kind of circulating there about a potential package that would send him back to the Brewers. Because, again, they're right in the heart of the pennant race. And one of the names I've heard mentioned there is a very high upside offensive prospect named Andrew Fisher. So we shall see if that happens. Now, of course, we're also hearing names like Luke Weaver, Clay Holmes. I'll talk about Clay Holmes in a second because he's not been active for a couple of months here. Now, again, Weaver's just been pitching amazing this year. But, again, the Mets can get a lot of value for him, especially because a lot of these buyers out there are looking for pitchers just like Weaver to bolster their bullpen, especially the back of the bullpen. Now, other players are making their cases here. Now, Tyrone Taylor, for a year and a half, has been, one of those players that's great in the field, brought in for a lot of defensive replacements late in the game if the Mets are winning, but not so much lighting it up at the plate. Well, he was out injured, all of a sudden comes back like he's Juan Soto, and he's just going crazy here. And perhaps maybe he's setting himself up to get a ticket out of town here. His name now has brought up just at the right time that he got hot. And if the Mets can get something for him, I think it would be overpriced, because I think this is just a phase. Nothing against Tyrone Taylor, because, again, a lot of Mets fans, including myself, appreciate him. Again, like the heart, like the hustle. Again, great in the field, not exactly great with the bat. And I think this is just a temporary situation. So, this power surge, though, might get a little bit more of a return for him. Now, another name I've been hearing is Luis Torrens. And a lot of people think he may end up going, not because of poor play, because he's done an amazing job of backing up Francisco Alvarez, especially when Alvarez is often injured. So Torrens has done amazing, but, it's an easy contract to pick up. So a lot of people think some team is going to go after him. Now, again, we've talked about the fact, and there's been rumors that Francisco Lindor could be on the block, that, he's not set in stone with the Mets. Now, I've heard all kinds of rumors with that. I've heard one where he's traded to another New York team. And of course, you know who I'm talking about there. But the problem is, again, he's got that huge contract. He's got a full no trade clause. So it's going to make it difficult to move him. And honestly, pretty unlikely. Again, nothing is out of the question here, is what the Mets are saying. There's a handful of untouchables, but Lindor wasn't listed as one of those untouchables. But at the same time, I think that, again, it's going to be very difficult. They're going to have to, the Mets and another team are going to have to come up with the absolute perfect trade scenario in order to get Lindor. Now, again, talking about the Yankees, I know you've been talking a few weeks, straight here, and for a few months, actually, about the current Yankee shortstop that may be on his way out of town. So maybe not too far-fetched to pick up another big-time shortstop, but again, probably more unlikely than likely. Okay. Now, again, it just remains to be seen, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Mets did a handful of trades. Now, we'll talk about injuries for a second. Juan Soto, again, having an MVP-type season. He had one stint on the IL already this year because of a right calf strain. Now, he's got a grade 2 left calf strain, and it's pretty serious, they're saying. Now, some people have said that that's it. They're going to shut him down. And, why take chances, if the Mets are out of it anyway? They're trading away all their top players, that kind of thing. But Soto is insistent that he's going to be back before the end of the season. Now, the official prognosis is that he's out until the end of August. So, it would be reasonable for him to come back late August, early September. Why not? But again, some people have said maybe they're going to shut him down. He stated that he's 100% returning to play this year, regardless of what people say. Now, Mark Vientos had a right hand fracture not too long ago. They confirmed that it was a right hand fracture. So he's out until late August. Now, I mentioned Clay Holmes' name. He took that hard line drive 100 mile an hour plus to the fibula and broke it. But he's making some positive steps to return. Pitched two innings, 2 1/3 innings in a minor league rehab start with Syracuse last week. So he is getting himself ready just in time to come back. And again, he is the type of pitcher that could really be helpful to somebody who's in a pennant race right now. And again, at a not that expensive price, although the Mets can get some, good young players back for him. Now, another interesting one here, Daniel Nunez, who had Tommy John last year, he's just about getting himself back and may be back as early as next week after almost a year, on the shelf. So good news for him to get himself back. But stay tuned, fasten your seatbelts. If we were doing another show next week, this Mets team, it's very possible it's going to be very different if we were to talk again this time next week. So no official transactions, for the week here. But something tells me, again, that list could be pretty lengthy and interesting next week. So I'm going to send it back to you, Jamie, for some more Yankees news.
Okay. So, Joe, let's see. Father Time is catching up to Anthony Volpe as the hype train for George Lombard Jr. Grows. But I'm going to talk about that, though, because at some point before the Tampa Rays ballpark decision ever happens, they already came to a decision. They're not going to fund it. Crazy.
We talking about the Montreal Rays?
Could be, yep. Yep. The Yankees will eventually call up top prospect and shortstop George Lombard Jr., but I mean, when, right?
Well, how about this, Jamie? I thought about that. Again, what do you think of the rumors here? Does Lombard Jr. come to the other New York team and Lindor go to the Yankees?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so either, but it's fun to play around with that in our heads. But I'm sorry, go ahead. I'll let you continue,
Right.
But just interesting thought.
Mm-hmm. But in order for that dream to become a reality, the Yankees must trade Anthony Volpe once and for all. And that time is coming sooner rather than later, thank the Lord. But anyway, Jose, Caballero is safe as they can use this trade to reinsert Cabby back as a utility infielder and outfielder. As per John Hyman, the debut of Lombard is immediate too. But when are actions going to speak louder than words?
Mm-hmm.
And we have a quote: shortstop isn't a top priority, partly due to faith in prospect George Lombard Jr., a terrific defender, Hyman wrote for the New York Post. Recent estimates suggest Lombard could be up in about 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah. But they've been saying that for what? The whole time now.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, Caballero is safe. Volpe is sitting in the hot seat and could be out by fire burning on the dance floor. That little Volpe's fire burning on the dance floor, as Sean Kingston would say.
Right.
In other words, Volpe will be gone from the Bronx, paving the way, maybe, possibly, but we'll see, to finally promote the former 2023 first-round pick. The only options the Yankees can make with Volpe to clear away for Lombard Jr. is to trade him and get some value for him or send him down to the minors where somebody can pick him off waivers.
Mm-hmm.
Over his career, Volpe has had many bites at the apple to be at least a league average hitter, and he hasn't been able to swallow it when he, too, was once the top shortstop practice for the Yankees back in 2009. The golden age of everything before COVID. Anyway.
Yeah. It was that long ago that he was coming up?
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Volpe is hitting a career high 242 with a 650 OPS with a 90 WRC plus, but it is still not number one in the MLB. I mean, go figure. While the fear is Lombard may end up being the same player as Volpe was, the Yankees need to at least give him his opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Caballero is playing exactly to the break of his baseball card, which won't cut it as a starter. And Volpe, I think, has used up too many points on his card to show the Yankees that he could be the guy at shortstop. I think that card's maxed out now. Overall, it just hasn't worked out in the Big Apple. When Lombard is eventually called up, he won't have much of a fence to jump over. He's going to be there for his defensive presence, and any of his offensive skills would just be a bonus. Because Anthony Volpe's defense has been kind of horrendous, especially last night where he dropped the potential game game over, game ending out in the ninth inning, which led Bednar to come out and throw 5 pitches and strike out. But according to Michael Kay, they can't use him today.
Right.
Right? I mean, come on, make it make sense.
5 pitches.
Right. So let's see. They need to finally put an end to the Volpe era and begin, hopefully, the Lombard Jr. era.
Mm-hmm.
Joe, what is it going to take for the Yankees to finally cut ties with Volpe and promote George Lombard Jr.? I mean, that's a rhetorical question. It's obviously the trade deadline this week, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. It's going to take a trade deadline in order to get him in. So it'll be interesting. Now, do you any ideas where you think Volpe might end up?
Good question. I said the Rockies. That would be interesting.
Right.
I don't know about the Dodgers, but no,
I don't see that. But it'll be interesting to see. But again, that's what it's going to take. And this guy's going to get his opportunity. We know that. They've been stalling a little bit, but maybe, like we've said before, perhaps that's for his good. Again, he wouldn't say that. I'm sure he's chomping at the bit, wants to get up here now, but it's not going to be much longer. I know we've said that, for weeks now, but I think his time is about to arrive.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Why would they possibly be afraid that Lombard Jr. might turn out to be the same player as Volpe was? Because Volpe was actually their top prospect in 2019 as a shortstop, as Lombard Jr. is now.
Yeah, the only reason I think they would fear that is because it's a very similar situation, right? A hot prospect that's, got a lot of potential, but they're two different players. And so there's no guarantee that, George Lombard's going to turn out like Volpe. I think they just might be fearing that because, again, the situations are very similar.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, now I have another one, too. This is a good one. How can the Yankees get ahead of preparing for life after Giancarlo Stanton with the deadline trade? I think I just answered it there, the deadline trade.
Right.
Giancarlo who?
Yeah.
Giancarlo Stanton? I didn't think the Yankees even knew he still exists on their team anymore.
Yeah, they refer to him as Gimpy, I guess, right?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, or you do. Yeah.
Aaron Boone will say one day his timetable is a mystery, but then he'll go on his favorite podcast, Talking Yanks, on Channel 47, or as I call them, the podcast versions of Mike and the Mad Dog.
Yeah, I thought we were his favorite podcast. Oh.
We never have him on.
Yeah.
Anyway, his favorite podcast, Talking Yanks, and say that he's closer than anyone might think. So he's saying one thing to another, but then when he goes on that podcast, he says, "Oh, he's closer than you think."
Right.
Double-edged sword.
Yeah.
While Stanton deserves his recognition for being one of the better postseason bats in Yankees history, which he has, I mean, that's a fact. He is. Yeah. Probably better than Judge, I would say, but we're not going to go there
definitely better
now.
Than Judge.
But we're not going to go there right now. Anyway, it's clear now that he hasn't really done anything for the team lately, to be blunt. He can't stay on the field healthy. Thus, the Yankees should start moving on to a world without him. They should move on to a whole new world. Anyway, the Yankees can start that process by trading. Guess who I think they could start that process for? They could trade for lefty batter. How about this? Adam might not be happy, but O'Neal Cruz from the Pittsburgh Pirates. There was rumors they might want him.
A great idea, because those left-handed hitters, what do you got to do to hit a home run at Yankee Stadium?
Pop the ball up the right shallow porch. Yep.
That's it.
Mm-hmm. Despite now being considered buyers, which they are, the Pirates are even. This is crazy, Joe. I don't think I've ever seen a trade where there's more there's actually more buyers than sellers. Like even the teams like the Orioles and that are out of it, they might be buyers because they're that close to being out of the wild card. So
I was just going to ask you the reason for it, but you just said it, right? That's what baseball wanted. That extra wild card or extra, couple of wild cards to create exactly this. There's, again, only, a handful of teams or slightly more that are out of the playoff picture. And this is exactly what baseball wanted.
I know, but Joe, is this what they wanted in the luxury tax era where certain teams, can buy everybody and jack up their payrolls? I mean, do they still want this parity though? I mean, that's the thing.
Right.
That's why it's crazy, because it's not a hard salary cap. Like I'm saying, no, but this is how crazy it is. The Dodgers, I think they got the best record than any of their previous 2 World Series teams. But yet there's more buyers in terms of teams at the trade deadline this year than any of the last 2 years when the Dodgers had a worse record. Isn't that kind of funny, though?
That is weird. But it's great that they think that maybe they need 1 or 2 pieces and they could take down the Dodgers. I think that's, at least in the National League, that's what they could be thinking.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So anyway, the Pirates could deal Cruz to the Yanks in return for some bullpen help. And we know the Yankees got that. They got starters. They got bullpen guys. They got pretty much, you name it. It's stupefying, Ben. I mean, isn't it? It's just crazy. Right. The Yanks could give up Ben Grable, who was a 2025 draft pick, to the Yanks, and has a nasty fastball that the Pirates love. We know that, but think about it, Joe. We know the Yankees like young, high relieving arms and their starters and their bullpen. What about the Pirates? Look at their starters and their bullpen guys. They got a bunch of guys that throw 98, 99. Like I said, from Skeens to Bubba Chandler, and even their bullpen's got some big flamethrowers, the Pirates. Just add another one for there.
I got something to say about that when I get to my Mets piece here.
Yep. And we have a quote here. The one name that has come up is O'Neal Cruz. Nightingale tells the Foul Territory podcast. He frees up some money. They do have some outfield depth. Can they trade O'Neal Cruz to get to bullpen up, because they need bullpen up as much as any contender out there? So Grable currently has 53 strikeouts in 32 2/3 innings in the minors this season. His fastball reminds people of the Dodgers' Alex Vesia. His stuff is already MLB ready, and the Pirates would love to add another young reliever to their repertoire. And then we have Elmer Rodriguez. Even though he's a starter, he could actually he could join the Pirates' big club. And like I said, you add another young starter to Bubba Chandler, Andrew Jones, and Paul Skeens, throwing him in there. And he was a top prospect for the Yankees, and he's got a big fastball that could use a change of scenery. He could all of a sudden be a young star on the Pirates, even though it didn't work out with the Yankees. So, and the Yankees have a logjam, like I said, of starting with pitchers and bullpen in their rotation. They could supply a whole 32-team league of pitchers now. Right. The Yankees. It's crazy. The Cruz deal is, get this though, Joe. The Cruz deal is actually comparable to Jazz Chisholm's 2024 deal. And I'll actually tell you why it would be comparable. Mm-hmm. Because he's a lefty batter, and the Yankees will have Cruz, will have him until he becomes a free agent in the 2029. So they would get to keep him on his current deal and then redo his contract in 2029. It was like when the Yankees got Jazz, and they got him in 2024, so they would still have him on his original contract. And now next year they're going to redo his deal. So it's the same thing. It would be 2026 until 2029, just like Jazz was 2024 until 2027. So they're basically buying players though on their contracts and not re-signing them until 3 years later. That's why they're saying the Cruz one compares to Jazz in terms of longevity and money.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, what's also good though is here's the thing: Cruz has had a career 2026 season, hitting 264 with an 822 OPS, with 14 homers, 44 RBIs, and 21 steals. And get this, he's on the 60-day IL with a broken left hand, and he had those stats up until then.
Oh, when did he break his hand? Do you know?
I didn't look it up. But anyway, I'll move on. He's permitted, though, to come off the IL on August 8th, which is 5 days after the deadline. So if the Yankees got him, at least it would be, he'd be coming off and they played again. If they got him, he'd be healthy again coming off the IL. That's a good thing. Well, while the Yankees wait on Aaron Judge and Stanton, he could be put right into right field when healthy. So there you go. Mm-hmm. And it kind of takes off the pressure of, not having Bellinger and Judge and all them until they come back. At least they add another guy like that.
Right.
So anyway, Joe, why do you think this deal reminds people of Jazz Chisholm Jr.? I know I already said it, but what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with everything you said there. I mean, it's a very similar situation. They're, two players that were on small market teams that are making, that made major contributions. I think the only difference is O'Neill Cruz could be on a potential playoff team. I don't think the Marlins were anywhere close to the playoffs when Jazz was there, but otherwise I can't really come up with a difference. I mean, it's a very similar situation, valuable players, that could definitely make positive impacts with the Yankees, similar contract situations, like you said. So, I think it would be a smart move for the Yankees. And I think, O'Neill Cruz, even though, again, he's been excelling with the Pirates, I think it would be a great move for him too.
Yeah, and then I said we could give them bullpen help. That will help them. So,
right,
and obviously the big difference is, like I said, Jazz is more of an all-around, more of a content, fast, athletic player, but Cruz is obviously more of a power hitter. That's the difference.
Right.
Well, but anyway, why would the Pirates want to trade him, though? Like I said, I know they're going to be buyers, but, I mean, why would they want to trade him when he's, on the 60-day IL with a broken hand? Because, like I said, he's going to be coming off the IL 5 days later, wherever he goes, or if he stays in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they don't want to trade him, but, again, they can get an excellent return for him. And, it's something that just maybe, would be better in the long run. Again, I'm sure Cruz is somebody that they don't want to get rid of. But, again, if they can get the players that they need, and again, it could, be a contract situation, of course, with the Pirates being a small market team. Got to watch, again, they don't have the payroll capability that the Yankees or other teams have. So I think it probably has something to do with that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So now let's turn it over to Joe one more time on this show, and then we're gonna celebrate a month off until we do football. But anyway, now for some Mets highlights. Go ahead, Joe.
Well, you just reminded me, Jamie, talking about beautiful nights here, talking about the Pirates and their pitchers. I was in Pittsburgh Friday night. My daughter is a Cubs fan, and we were taking a trip to the Bronx, but we had something to do in Pittsburgh too. So we went, the Cubs were playing in Pittsburgh over the weekend. And I saw a guy named Jared Jones talking about those Pirates fireballers, and he was pretty impressive in person. So, it was kind of cool that we were able to see, the young pitcher Jones that we've talked about a lot, and that young Pirates team. So my daughter was happy. The Cubs won. They won in extra innings. It was a great game. It was a perfect night. So I forgot to say that in the beginning. What's that?
I didn't mean to interrupt, but you said the Cubs. I wasn't listening. The Cubs won in extra innings, right?
The Cubs won the game in extra innings, okay. Yes.
Yeah.
And again, my daughter's a Cubs fan. So, Yeah, so I forgot to say in the beginning, I was actually at a live Major League Baseball game this past Friday. But anyway, let's go back to some Mets information here. And again, we'll take some positive things. They were 2-3 over the 5 games that they played. Now, they outscored their opponents 30-18, but part of that was a mirage because they scored 14 runs against the Braves last night. So that inflates it a little bit, but still only giving up 3+ runs a game, scoring, that's an average of 6. But even if you take that 14 away, you're talking, 4 runs a game, which isn't bad. Now, I gonna kind of switch gears a little bit. A lot of busyness going on here, and I was away again for a few days. So I'll just kind of give you a condensed version here. Now, talking about Francisco Alvarez, and again, I had read some things even saying that he was possibly on the trade block. And it's looking more and more like that's not going to happen. And I sure as heck hope it doesn't, especially if they get rid of Luis Torrens. But he has just been doing amazing all year. He's got a 16+% barrel rate, all right, which, again, is very high, 44.5% hard hit rate. And, again, that's one of the reasons that the Mets are holding on to him. Now, it's interesting here, almost 2/3 of the way through the season, that Francisco Lindor is finally getting going. And, he got off to that bad start. Then he was hurt for a long time. But he is really now starting to play like Francisco Lindor and get his stuff together. Again, there's that slight possibility that he does get traded, but I think more and more, again, that it's not going to happen. But, he had a couple of home runs, RBI triple, 108 mile an hour exit velocity on one of those home runs, like a 28-degree launch angle. So, the textbook barreled ball. And, his bat speed, that's another thing that they're saying. And one of the big reasons that he's starting to hit the ball, his bat speed has definitely picked up about 76 miles an hour. Now, again, I wouldn't have known where that compares. That's in the 94th percentile league-wide. So, again, I think the reason that he's starting to get these high exit velocities and get his, those hard hits that he's known for is the fact that he's been able to develop that bat speed now. Now, I mentioned Tyrone Taylor, and again, who probably is going to get traded. And again, perhaps the Mets can get a little bit of an inflated value because of his last few weeks' stats here. But again, he's been hitting, several times over 100 miles an hour exit velocity. Over the last week, he's got a 55.5% hard hit rate. Okay, so that is way above his average. So taking a look at some pitchers now, Zach Thornton pitched quite well the other day. He is basically had his 4th straight quality start yesterday. And they're talking about why. They're saying it's the pitch shape. Now, his 4-seam fastball is maybe a little below average, 92.5 miles an hour. But they're saying it averages almost 20 inches of vertical break, giving it what they call an elite rising effect. And that's resulted in a 34% whiff rate, over the last couple of weeks. So definitely, again, maybe not the speed on the fastball, and maybe he can develop that, but it's certainly got the movement. Okay, now, again, talking about some of these other pitchers that the Mets are probably going to be without, again, as of next week or any day, really. Luke Weaver, spin rate, he's got a 38% chase rate of pitches outside the strike zone. So he's really fooling pitchers, especially with his changeup. Clay Holmes, when he was in, his big thing was the sinker. And he had a very high ground ball rate. And that's really going to help a team looking for something along those lines. Now, since this is the last show, I wanted to point out a couple of players that Doesn't seem like a lot of people are talking about. This is kind of my version. I know every week Jamie does a great job of talking about the down on the farm part of the Yankees, and perhaps in future seasons here, I can dig into that for the Mets. I think that's a great idea. But in our final show of the season here, I wanted to talk about some ones that the Mets have now. One of their excellent prospects is a guy named Ryan Clifford. Now, he is a first baseman / outfielder, and pretty much plays equal time at both. Now, here's some stats that he's been at AAA Syracuse, and I'm mentioning these two guys as well because they're both listed on the prospects list as being promoted and playing for the Mets in 2026. So perhaps even after the trade deadline pretty soon. But these are stats with AAA Syracuse. He's got a 93 mile an hour average exit velocity. And he has hit balls as much as 113 miles an hour, 53% hard hit rate, 14.5% barrel rate, which again, anything double digits is elite. Okay. So he definitely is, certainly up and coming. Now they have another pitcher here, right-handed pitcher named Jack Wenninger. And again, I haven't heard a lot of people talking about him, but these stats stood out to me. So I wanted to share. Now, he is basically, again, doesn't have that overwhelming triple-digit fastball, but he has a 1.27 ERA, going to the old-fashioned stats here. And his specialty is the changeup as a 60 grade pitch on the 20/80 scale. All right, which is amazing. Now, both of them are projected to join the team this season, as I mentioned. And again, if you look at the prospects list there, they're both listed that way on Major League Baseball. Now, where we stand here as we wrap up, again, after 98 games, the Mets or 97 games, I should say, 45-62, 17 and a half games out of the division, 10 out of the wild card. Again, when we first started the season, if you would have told me that the Mets would be in this position, I would have laughed at you or anybody else that told me that. But here they are. So now the big question is, again, I'm not going to go into who they're going to play the rest of the season, but now who's moved? I'm even more curious is what surprises are out there. And another question is, can they be successful in getting significant prospects to fix the mess that they're currently in and add some heart to this team that's been lacking for 2 seasons now since the 2024 second half? So those are the questions I have as we wrap up here this season. Who are they going to get? Do they fix the mess? And can we be positive and optimistic when Major League Baseball returns, either halfway through 2027 or at the beginning of 2028? So that's all I got here. I'm going to send it back to you for some more news as well over there in Yankees land.
Joe, I think they can. I think the Mets can, and I'll tell you actually. I'll tell you why. I can tell you why though. I think they can. This obviously you could argue that this hurt the team now, but it helped them long term in terms of younger prospects and other people getting their opportunity. But you know what? You know what the best thing you guys did, even though it tanked your season now, but it can help you long term, and you had to do this. It pains me to say this. Getting rid of Pete Alonso, I think when you did that, you may not agree with that, but if you look at it now, it looks like a good move long term for the team in terms of, because if you think about it, even with the high payroll, they still had a lot of other young prospects that would have never gotten their shot if they tried to keep Pete Alonso and Soto together.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on that because, a lot of Mets fans criticize that. Now, every Mets fan, including myself, would love to still have Pete Alonso. He was the heart and soul of the team. And a lot of that heart and soul is missing, again, since he's been gone. Same with Brandon Nimmo. All right. Even Jeff McNeil played with hustle and heart. But I honestly don't think that this team would be any better off with those guys. Maybe slightly, again, as far as the lack of heart, that would be different. But I don't think things would be that much different. At most, I think they'd be hovering close to 500. And I think they're better off in this situation, as you said, than just hovering around mediocrity like they did at the end of last season. So as much as I would love to still see Pete Alonso in a Mets uniform, as Brandon Nimmo, Jeff McNeil as well, I agree with you. I think the Mets are better off and better off in the long run having not kept Alonso and those players. So, a lot of Mets fans disagree. They say, look, if we had Alonso, we wouldn't be in this situation. And I'm not so sure about that.
Well, yeah, those are people that want instant gratification, but they don't think about long term. That's the thing.
Right. So I definitely agree with you on that.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, I think the problem is you could tell that him and Soto were butting heads, and you can't have two alpha guys like that butting heads, no matter how good they are together. And I think they wanted to get rid of that problem when they did, and I think they at least did that. So
right, I agree.
And like I said, if you notice, he hasn't been the same player on Baltimore. If you notice, so he hasn't really been the same player, I think, since.
That doesn't surprise me. I expected that, and it's funny because I think Baltimore is an easier place to hit home runs than Citi Field, but I kind of saw that coming.
Although, if you notice, though, Baltimore, you know what they did in 2022? Remember, they changed all their dimetrics to because they wanted to start bringing better pitchers. And remember how it was a great hitters park, but then they decided in 2022 to change the dimensions to make it more of a pitchers park, and it's kind of worked out for them because they have brought in better pitching since then.
That's true. And they won a division. What year did they win the division? Like 23, 24, somewhere in there?
23, I think. Yeah.
23, yeah. So, it definitely made a difference. But, again, nothing against Pete Alonso. But I did expect him to take a step down.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And anyway, I'm going to move on over to me, Joe. So,
okay.
Anyway, I just feel like they can, just because of that decision. I think that decision has an impact over that. But anyway, guess what? The Yankees are projected to trade top 3 100 prospects and a young starter for a certain closer out there. I think you might know who it is.
I might.
And guess what? Here's the funny thing. The last time the New York Yankees and the San Diego Padres did business, Juan Soto came to the Yankees. But here was the thing, though. Here was the thing that, it stings now because guess what? Brian Cashman had to give up some young, talented pitchers. And guess who one of them was? Michael King. And look how good Michael King's turned out to be. So, but, anyway, but I think this deal is different, like I said, because after they got rid of Soto, they were able to, like I said, in 2024, they rebuilt their pitching through the draft. And then when they got rid of Soto, they spent, 2025 upgrading it, with Fried. And then and then Schlittler came in, and then they finally got rid of Marcus Stroman. And then this year they added more with Weathers and Rodon coming back. So this deal's different. Like I said, their pitching situation's a lot deeper and much better to make a trade like this, I think, for Mason Miller than with Juan Soto. They didn't really have the depth, I think, to do it, even though they had some talented young arms. And I said this deal is different because, like I said, Mason Miller's the prize of the trade, and he's another flame-throwing pitcher, but he's a closer. So it's not like they're trading young pitchers for a hitter. They're trading it for a high-leverage closing pitcher. That's why this is different. So, And I think AJ Preller wants a similar troth of arms, but I think this still has the Soto deal beat by far in terms of value. I think this is a much more valuable deal if they do it. So, to the Padres shot, guess what? Preller isn't interested in trading for shortstops, including George Lombard Jr. So the Yankees could make this. This would be their best bet in terms of they would lose a lot of arms, but they would get a great closer without having to lose Lombard Jr. So that's why this bet makes the most sense.
Okay.
So anyway, and I said, but the best the Padres could do is Dax Kilby, who's only in single A with Tampa, but he could be another George Lombard Jr. in that he turned pro right out of high school after being drafted like Lombard Jr. did. So, but guess what? That could be going away soon when 2008 starts. So we got to in 2028 starts. So we got to enjoy prospects like this while we can.
Mm-hmm.
So, because they want to do draft reform. Remember, they want to ban the high schoolers and make the domestic 20 and the international 18. So
yes,
the Yankees have a plethora of young pitching prospects to offer the Padres, such as Elmer Rodriguez, Carlos Lagrange. Get it, Lagrange, but it's Lagrange.
Right.
And veteran starter Will Warren, all who could help strengthen the Padres pitching prospect pool. Diehard Yankees followers might growl about Warren, but the 27-year-old has been probably one of their more consistent stars in terms of both velocity and, command on the mound and the way he has movement and life on his fastball. So also he's a cheap arm with 2 more years until salary arbitration, and then he's not a free agent until 2031. Okay. So anyway, the trade is risky, but it could mean a World Series title. Oh, ask the Knicks, was it worth acquiring Mikal Bridges from the Brooklyn Nets for 5 first-round draft picks? I mean, you bet it is now, especially because they won a championship. And now at least the one thing, though, the Nets are using those picks to rebuild with a young core. So
right. So, yeah, help both.
Yep.
That's what you want.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, Joe, should the Yankees go back to the well with the Padres by giving up potential young arms for arguably the game's best closer right now in Mason Miller? Now I'm gonna say he'll never be a Mariano Rivera, right? But this dude throws pitches, like I said, that Mariano Rivera could never throw. I mean, he throws 104 or 105, and like Mariano was a 95-mile-an-hour cutter, but he's got stuff that's filthier than his,
Yeah, nobody's ever going to be Mariano Rivera. But yes, to answer your question, Jamie, yes, I think they should go for it. They have such a depth and a surplus of excellent young pitchers that I think it would be worth it to give up a couple of these guys now. Like we were saying about other players before, I'm sure they don't want to give any of these players up. But, they have so many of them that, again, the window's open now. This is probably the best chance the Yankees have to win that they've had. Well, I mean, they had a great chance a couple of years ago. But I really think, again, the American League is theirs for the taking. And so I think they have to take advantage of every opportunity to, at least get to the World Series. Now, again, you get to the World Series and you lose to the Dodgers. There's no shame in that. But you got to get there. And I think, again, this is so wide open. And again, I think the road to the World Series in the American League goes through New York. And the Yankees have to make sure, that they take it. So, yeah, I mean, give up some of these guys, and that hurts a little bit. But in the long run, I mean, you get the best reliever in the game potentially. Now's the time. Go do it.
Yep. And how do you think selling the farm for Miller compares drastically to when they gave up all those arms for Soto 2 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, it came in handy in a way. I mean, they didn't win the World Series, but they got there. And, so it had its positive effects. So it's very similar, especially very similar because it's dealing with the Padres again. But again, I think it's well worth it at this point to go for it.
And like I said, their pitching's a lot. What they had to give up, like I said, when they got rid of Soto, they lost a lot of their depth in pitching though too. But now, like I said, they've rebuilt the starting, and they've rebuilt that, starting in depth, that they can do that for Miller. Now that's the difference, because like I said, it just sucks that hindsight, it looks terrible now that they gave up Michael King for him, but still.
Yeah, but that you don't know that at the time. And again, even back then, I think it was worth it for them to make that trade.
Yeah.
So, and it would certainly be worth it now.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Now, anyway, Joe, as you mentioned, let's take a look at, for the last time on the show, at Down on the Farm, as Michael Kay always says on the Yes Network when they talk about the prospects.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to start out with AAA Scranton Wilkes-Barre Rail Riders. They lost 8-1 versus the Syracuse Mets. So a AAA Subway Series.
Series.
Yep. Even though technically, Scranton's in Pennsylvania and Syracuse is New York, but
we could call it a AAA I-81 series. How's that?
Okay. Anyway, yep. Well, guess what, Joe? We already talked about him in the show, but we're going to say it again. Shortstop George Lombard Jr. And hopefully we're done with the show and we're doing the football show that he's finally up with the Yankees, or he didn't get traded away. So let's talk about him one more time on this show while we still have him. So anyway, he was 1 for 3 with 2 walks, 2 strikeouts, and a single to center. And he was one of just 4 Rail Riders to hit. And I wrote exclamation point, please call him up. And then we have catcher JC Escada. He was 1 through 4 with a strikeout and throwing air, still putting Escadas on his opponents. Next, we have center fielder Mr. Jones, Spencer Jones. Everybody just wants to be big hitters. He was 0 for 2 with 2 strikeouts, 2 balls hit by a pitch again. No, he was plunked on the back leg and then foot. And he seemed okay. But guess what? When one door closes with Bellinger, another one opens. He was called up on Sunday following Cody Bellinger's injury, and now he's going to probably have another full month again to enjoy his time in the majors.
Very good.
Yeah. And here's another guy that everybody loves on the team, but they forget about him because he was on the team last year, but suffered a bad knee ACL injury. Was out for the year, and now he's on AAA, Oswaldo Cabrera, and I hope they don't trade him either because he's a fan favorite, and everybody loves this guy. He's awesome.
Yep.
And he's shown his potential too. When healthy, he could be a decent ball player. He has as a young guy. And he's a utility guy too. He could play anything, which is cool on the field.
Mm-hmm.
So he was 1 for 3 with the strikeout, was hit by a pitch. Next, we're going to go to the AA Somerset Patriots. They won 9-4 against the New Hampshire Fisher Cats. Joe, last week I asked you what a sea dog is. Do you have any idea what a Fisher Cat is?
I actually do. It's funny you say that because my parents live in central New York, and, they're in the middle of nowhere, between Binghamton and Albany. Again, that I-81 corridor there. Mm-hmm. And there was word out that there were Fisher Cats in the area. And, be careful that don't take your pets out or don't leave your pets out because the Fisher Cat could attack it. I guess what it is, it's they said they can even hear the Fisher Cat because they kind of live in the woods. They got a lot of land on it. I can't really describe it because I've only seen pictures. Never heard of this until about 2 months ago, since May when my parents got back from Florida. But yeah, it's just a really nasty cat-like animal that again wouldn't, I guess, attack humans, but would attack animals. And there was danger that there was a fish or cat in the area, so be careful if you're going out there, especially if you got a pet out. So I guess that's the best I can explain it. But again, for 60 years and 2 months of my life, I had never heard of a fish or cat. And now 2 months ago, I learned about it. So funny that it would come up here on this podcast.
Mm-hmm. We're going to start out with rice fielder Jace, or in Spanish, Hase Avina. Yep. He was 1 for 5 with a triple, a walk, and struck out twice. And he had it, and his booming triple was to center field. Next, we have DJ Gladney. He was 3 for 5 with a double, a home run, 3 RBIs, a strikeout, and a stolen base. It was his 18th homer in 82 games at Somerset. Good all-around game.
Mm-hmm.
Next, we have designated hitter Jackson Castillo. He was 1 for 4 with a ball, with an RBI, a strikeout, and a stolen base. Joe, I'm going to try to keep this show family friendly and kid friendly as I can. But this next prospect, he was a catcher. His name was Tomas Frick. If you can believe that. Cover your ears, kids, if you heard that. I'm sorry. Yeah. He was 3 for 4 with a home run, a walk, and 2 RBIs. His first homer in 60 games at Somerset. Again, folks, cover your ears. Joe, I guess he really hit the frick out of that ball, didn't he?
That's freaking awesome. Yes.
Anyway, next we have starting pitcher Chase Hampton. And he welcome back, buddy. It seems like he's always been a guy who's got a great fastball, but he's always having arm troubles. It seems like he's always getting hurt for some reason. But anyway, he pitched 4 1/3 innings. We're making progress, though. Almost 5 innings in minor league ball, though. So
there you go.
With 4 hits, 2 runs, 2 earned runs, 2 balls or 2 walks, and 6 strikeouts. His stuff looked filthy, but he was choppy. His command was choppy too, but still he still went 4 1/3 innings with that. So I give him credit for that.
Good.
Next we have High A Hudson Valley Renegade, New Pittsburgh. Anyway, they won 6-5 against the Wilmington Blue Rocks.
Blue Rocks?
Yeah, they're called the Blue Rocks. Okay. Next, we have third baseman, shortstop Rodrigue Arias, who was 2 for 4 with a home run, 2 RBIs, 2 strikeouts, a sacrifice fly, and 2 fielding errors, and had a solo home run in the third. Practicing when he comes up to the Yankees, solo home runs. Anyway, next we have Emmanuel Tejada. I haven't heard that name in a while since Miguel Tejada and the Orioles, but I don't think there's any relation. So he was 2 for 4 with a walk, an RBI, a strikeout, a stolen base, had a game-tying single in the 7th. Next, we have left fielder Robbie Burnett. No relation to former Yankee A.J. Burnett. He was 3 for 5 with a home run, 2 RBIs, struck out twice, had a stolen base, and he fouled by going yard to put Hudson Valley ahead, 6-4. Next, we have starting pitcher Luis Serena. You'll like this, Joe. In high A ball, he went 5 2/3 innings. He did a little bit better at a lower level. Almost.
Congratulations, good. That's what we want to hear.
Yep. With 7 hits, 4 runs, 1 earned run, a walk, 8 strikeouts though, so that was good. A home run and 2 walked balls. He was all over the place, but not in the worst way, I suppose. Next, we have the low A Tampa Tarpons. Okay, so they won 9-4 at the Palm Beach Cardinals. And we're going to talk about shortstop that the Yankees may trade to the Padres, but we don't know yet, Dax Kilby. He was 2 for 4 with a home run, 2 RBIs, and a strikeout, but he had a fielding and missed the catchers there. He really crushed that second homer. It was his first game back at low A where he was last year at this point in his career. He was in low A, and then he got hurt, so he had to rehab with the Florida Complex League Yankees. And then he already got called up, and now he's back up to low A where he was at this point last year. So, anyway, so Joe, what do you think of George Lombard Jr. still not being called up to the big show?
Well, we talked about it before. It's a matter of when, not if. So, yeah, again, it's going to happen, and perhaps, like I said before, it's for his good that he had to wait a little bit, but we're going to see him before long, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. And how about Spencer Jones getting another getting his third call up this year with Cody Bellinger hurt?
Yeah, well deserved. I mean, he's got some experience, so I think he'll help the Yankees. That I hated to hear about that with Bellinger, but I think you got a capable guy here who's going to get his opportunity, and hopefully he can take it and run with it.
Mm-hmm. Guess what, Joe? We finally got this. It is that time in our show for our final question of the week segment. So, Joe, would you like to give it a try one more time?
Let's go for it.
Here we go. So, okay, Joe, for the final time on the Subway Conversation Channel Season 3, here is your season finale question. Can you guess this MLB player from last season that didn't have 50-plus home runs?
Ooh, okay.
Is it Kyle Schwarber, Aaron Judge, Eugenio Suarez, Shohei Ohtani?
I'm going to say Suarez.
You got it. It was
Right.
It was Eugenio Suarez with 49, as Kyle Schwarber had 56, Aaron Judge had 53. But a lot of people forget he was hurt a little bit last year too, and he came back, and then Ohtani had 55.
Yep. All right.
Yep.
Good way to end on a high note.
Yep. Good job, yo.
Thank you.
Yep. Well, you're welcome. Well, it looks like we come to the end of our. Well, hold on. Well, it looks like we've come to the end of our show and to the end of the season of the Subway Conversation Chat. We look forward to talking to everyone next season, and we will be back in about a month with Season 4, the Season 4 premiere of the Buffalo Sports Conversation Room for all our football and Bills fans. Anyway, I'll save that for when we do our show. Anyway, so Joe, where can we find you for the last time on Season 3? In the social media world on Tuesday, July 28th, 2026, the season finale of the Subway Conversation Chat, and also the last Tuesday of July.
Crazy at that as well. Now, I'm going to say 3 things before we end and before I share that information. First of all, love doing the show with you, and I look forward to doing the football one as well. Lots of fun always, and you got some great information there. Secondly, good luck to your Yankees. I think, like I said, I think the American League is wide open for them. Not to say that there's some difficult and great teams there. Again, you're not going to want to hear it, but the toughest one might be in your own division, not the Rays. So again, good luck to them. Third of all, here's my prediction for next year. Now, we've talked about the fact that there may not be a season in 2027. The more I read into this and the more I think about it, I don't think we're going to miss an entire season of baseball in 2028. 2027. I don't think they play a full season. I think we go about half the season and there's no baseball. All right, so we're going to have to find some other things. I do think that both sides get desperate, and let's say around All-Star time, instead of an All-Star break, I think that's when the season starts. But hopefully I'm wrong about that. Hopefully some miracle happens. They figure things out, and we can be having our show here, season 4 of the Subway Conversation Chat, starting in late March instead of late June, for example. So that's my prediction. But I hope that, again, we have a full season to talk about. But again, great doing the show with you. Look forward to starting football soon. I can be found on Joe Dell Sports on Twitter X, putting my 2 cents of things in there. Some other shows on this network as well.
And you guys can follow me, yours truly, on Bill's Chat 1, at Bill's Mafia Chat, and also at Jamie Malloy, the unbiased journalist, at DJ Dog Tags on X, BuffaloDown.com, and thefortball.com, where I write about all sports. Please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell for all notifications. For more content on Driving to the Top Productions, please visit our YouTube page, Twitch stream, X stream, Facebook stream, wherever you get your podcast. For Joe Dalio, I'm Jamie Malloy, and this is officially a wrap on season 3 of the Subway Conversation Chat. We will see you later, about a month in August, for the season 4 premiere of the Buffalo Sports the Buffalo Sports Conversation Room. Until then, good night, everybody, and we'll see you a month later when that show begins.
Yes, and
Goodbye.
thanks for watching us.
Yeah, thank you.